and welcome. My name is Jean Gallagher, financial advisor, founder of Seaside Solutions and Discover Rising Tides. Welcome to show number 36, Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better, where we explore the importance of the outdoors and maintaining life balance. Through this series, we'll be talking with women business owners to understand their journey. And we'll also be hearing from Lynn Schuessler-Williams, author, coach, and in her segment on Rising Up. But first, today I'm excited to introduce Paula Adler. Hi, Paula.
Hey, Jean. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. And big thanks to Rebecca Hoffman for connecting us.
I know. I love how we all get connected through different people. I'm glad to have you here as well. So let me just read a piece of your bio and then we'll dive in.
Sounds great. And may I share one little thing? I have to tell you, I've been thinking about this all day.
Yes,
and I want to
please.
share it with you. So for your listeners as well. And we'll talk about this a little bit later about how I'm incorporating the outdoors into my coaching program. But every time I read Discover Rising Tides, I have this great visual, and it's I'll talk about core energy coaching, very uplifting for me. So I visualize rising tides, and it's really, truly energizing. So,
oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. And that was, that's really a lot behind it, because it is, we all, rising tides raises all ships. Yep. So yes, thank you for that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So Paula has over 33 years in professional service industry and has translated her life and work experiences into a passionate career as a life and leadership executive coach. On the heels of more than 3 decades at Price Waterhouse and as a managing director in a high pressure, high demand work environment, she brings the distinct experience and qualities of a natural relationship leader and coach, as well as authenticity and a supportive presence to the coaching world.
Thank you. Who wrote that?
Officially welcome.
Yeah,
I did read that.
Yeah.
And I didn't stumble too badly, so there's a plus.
You did great. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. I want to dive into the pre-coaching piece too in their journey, because I love talking to people that have made the shift from corporate to entrepreneurism, and as I did as well, but I didn't spend 33 years in the corporate world, and that shapes you in a certain way, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But let's talk about what that transition was like and how you made it through, because I think there's a lot of people that are in the corporate environment, and especially after COVID, because COVID really brought out entrepreneurialism, and many people are thinking, geez, if I could just be in control of what I'm doing, but I'm afraid to make that transition, or, how do you pull that safety net out to go all by yourself? So let's talk about that.
That is a good preamble to it. And if you're comfortable with it, I'd love to give you a little bit of personal background before we go into the corporate.
Please. Yes.
It weaves 100% into who I am today and how I got to where I am. So I always start with my family. I am a single parent. I've been a single parent since 2001. I have 2 grown and amazing sons, and now a daughter-in-law as of this year. Thank you. They're located in New York City. Got 2 Australian Shepherds who are hanging outside, and a grand pup as well. And just a little bit about me, because I wanted to bring in the outdoors, because it really, from a couple of years goes on, it completely shifted my life. So in line with our focus today, I love to travel. I love to bike and hike, and all my travel plans are kind of baked around that. Is there a place to bike? Is there a place to hike? And I've actually started, as of this week, to incorporate, because post-COVID, the outdoors into my coaching program. So I was fortunate for the first time to meet with a client all day earlier this week in New York City. We spent a lot of time outdoors, and that was a real experience for both of us. So we can talk about that a little bit more.
Oh, I'd love to. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And as you said, from a career perspective, I never intended to be anywhere for 33 and a half years. Former managing director with PwC, I had an amazing career. I will say they were roles that took my soul, and that was kind of the beginning of the transition. But I spent time in strategy and operations, human capital, risk consulting. And now I smile all the time when I say, I'm a life and leadership executive coach, and I own Paula Adler Coaching and Consulting. And for context, I'll share who my clients are, because I look my client in the mirror every day, if I can put it that way. So I support ambitious, and I'm going to go for air quotes, outwardly successful women, and now men. I market to women. I coach women and men who've got this inner knowing that there's more to life than the way they're currently living. And I raised this because that was 100% me at the time. And I support my clients to create a vision for how they want their life to look, even if right now it feels like it's going to be an impossible dream. I love when someone's reached a point to say, I need to do something, is this all there is? And they're not sure what that is. I love to work that with them. And then we gain clarity on all the things that are standing in their way. There are a lot of things that stood in my way for sure, so that they can clear a path for their life and their career, that where they truly love what they're doing, where they feel valued, where they have a sense of satisfaction and purpose. And I'm going to say a big and without burning out in the process. And that was the key for me. That's what drove my change. I was getting burned out in the process. And I liked, I love my role. I love my firm, but they were definitely roles that took my soul, is the way I put it. Yeah. So that's a little bit of background. I'm happy to share, if you like, on the transition, as you said.
So the things that really triggered you are, your soul or regaining your soul, right? And so how did the transition work for you? Did you say one day, well, I'm going to be done with this job and I'm going to do this on my own? Was it a little bit of a part-time into your business?
Neither.
Door number 3.
Yeah. Door number 3. I'll explain how it happened. So as I said, I spent the better part of my career in professional services capacity, and it was a very high pressure, high demand work environment. And then single parent at home, really strove to excel everywhere in my life, raising 2 children on my own, which was unexpected single parenthood. And then professionally, I was in auditing and consulting, and I had an outstanding career with PwC. I had great roles. Every time there was a role that I wanted, I was able to shift into it. So my career was great. I had valued promotions. My income was great. And so if you looked at me, and this is how I describe it with my clients when we're doing discovery calls, the adjectives that people might align with me, both people in my life at home and at work, were things like ambitious, driven, successful, resilient, that word, determined. And although I long respected my firm and all the roles I had, they were really, really hard to leave at the door when I got home. And also, as I said, I walked a tightrope of what I call unexpected parenthood, single parenthood, and then caring for each of my parents as they aged, one right after the other. So I felt super inadequate. I felt like I was juggling balls all over the place. I kept feeling like I was dropping them. So if you asked me, how I felt at the time, I would have said overwhelmed, overworked, stuck, stressed, anxious, etc.
Is that what when you say outwardly successful, that's exactly what you're leading to, right? Where on the outside, people are seeing you as one thing, but internally there's turmoil and inadequacies in many different areas of your life?
100%. I felt like life was passing me by. I put my head down, did my thing, my kids' activities, caring for my parents, activities and family. I did a lot of work in mergers and acquisitions at PwC, very high, intense, long hours, et cetera. I would find I would go from one year to the next, and my head was spinning. And so all that being said, I know that where I am today, all those things that I went through, like my struggles that were inherent in that journey, have absolutely influenced who I am today. And I call it the goal. I do an exercise with my clients called Tell Me Your Story, where we look for the golden threads of their life, like the things that have been important to them or have shown up in their life all through their life. And I'll get to that for me, what those were. But I know that all the challenges I went through have really prepared me well for being a coach. I felt like the days were passing me by. And I say this to my clients, they all feel like they're like trapped in a tunnel of responsibility, no setting of boundaries, wanting to make a big change, but really being paralyzed by fear. And what I learned ultimately is that with the right support, you can really walk through those challenges and shift your life. And that's what happened to me. So
and really being able to walk in those shoes prior to doing what you're doing now really has helped you shape your business.
100%. And as I thought about, you probably heard the term ideal client avatar, when I finally got to a point where I realized stepping into this world of coaching might be for me, and I hired a coach to figure it out. I kept searching for like, who would I want to coach? And I realized the person I look in the mirror every day, that is who I say I look my ideal clients in the mirror every day. And so I really didn't know where to turn. I reached a point, my mom had passed away in 2017. And I took a big sigh, like I was at work and in between some acquisitions that we were doing, my mom had just passed away. my kids were grown, all that good stuff. And I got to a point where I just said, I've got to claim back my life. I don't know how to do it,
Mm.
but I'm going to take some steps forward. So I didn't know where this would lead at the time, but I ended up taking a course that was entitled Life and Leadership Potential. And it is run by IPEC, which is the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, where ultimately in 2019, I got my coaching certification. Several of my colleagues had taken that, and it really wasn't about me going into coaching at the time. I had never planned to leave PwC. I thought I would retire from there, but I knew I needed to, like I call putting it a foot in the door of my life to figure out where I was, not to be trite, but the who I was. I wasn't sure who I was. I was a single parent. I was a PwC managing director. I wasn't quite sure who I was. So I signed up for the course, and I really wanted to discover like what energized me. I wanted to explore what a fulfilling life meant to me, because I had put that on the back burner mostly when I became a single parent, because I was all in on my kids and really wanting to raise them as if we were in a two-parent family. So I really craved, I'll say, clarity on my career. Hear the dogs.
Yes.
Sorry, I knew that.
No, don't apologize.
Dog walker has arrived.
I have one sleeping underneath my feet here too. So
yeah. I really craved clarity on what I wanted to do from a career perspective. I loved my career. I will always say that. I love PwC. I love my career. I couldn't imagine being somewhere. My father was at Quaker Oats for 35 years. I said, that'll never be me. And I didn't quite make his tenure, but I got close. But I wanted to figure out, I've been single, since 2001, career, relationships, my life in general. And I felt like that life and leadership potentials training would help me just to get some clarity for myself. And also as a really good output, I knew it would help me with my leadership and my coaching at PwC. So I can describe a little there. This is the start of the transition, because it helped me discover who I was when I was in the program. And ultimately I signed up for the full coaching program in 2019 for me, not with ever of thinking about leaving, but the program focused on really looking inside yourself, finding the root of your challenges and what was blocking your success. And I certainly had a lot of blocks, a lot of inner fear, self-doubt, et cetera. Examining those things that I call limiting beliefs, the things that limit your perspectives as far as where you want to go, and the impacts of all those thoughts that we get into our head from our own life experiences. So within the program, it was to gain a greater awareness on how we think, how we feel, and based upon those thoughts and those feelings, what actions we take to do more with less effort, and to reduce stress, I like to say, being in choice of not reacting, but how we respond to things in order to become the change agent of our own life. So I started doing that. I started having that experience for myself. And at the time, I had zero desire to leave PwC. My objective, as I said, was like put a foot in the door of my life and determine what was most important to me. And as it turned out, I could not have predicted this. I got through 2/3 of the coaching program, and it was one exercise in the coaching program where we had to talk about like what was most important to in our lives across our career. And I did some digging for myself, and I know across I'm a CPA, I was in audit, I was in consulting, I've been in other environments. Everything was always about connecting with others, developing new relationships, and coaching. Those were always the things that lit me up. So the day after the second module of the training, I hired a coach to explore what was coming up for me. So that was the start of my exodus. And I still didn't know where it was going to go, but that was the start of my exodus.
Were you surprised at what was coming up for you during that class? So first of all, don't answer that yet. So
okay.
First of all, I just want to commend you for being outwardly successful in the work environment that you're in, to take that step to personally develop yourself, because I don't think that that's necessarily encouraged in life, or maybe it's more encouraged now than it was back then. But to be able to have the insight or the something internally told you that there was probably something else out there, but you just didn't know that message was coming yet, maybe. But were you surprised at what was coming up for you while you're taking that class personally?
100%. Well, I'm going to say yes. Yes, let me say yes, I was. And it was a very, I will probably have my colleagues from that program as life friends right now, because we were all people that were, some people that came to the program were absolutely looking to establish a coaching business. And then there were people like me. So two groups, those who wanted to do coaching, whether inside their organization or in their own business. And then there were people like me who were senior in their careers who got to a point and said, is this all there is?
Mm.
Really had put their life on the side. And so I was surprised that I landed where I was, because I love my firm. I never thought, I'm still
Mm.
working with them. I mean, you could do some coaching for them, which is amazing, soon. And I knew I had to shift my life of various other things, and I'm happy to share this. I ended up over the course of the last 5 years at PwC gaining 65 pounds.
Wow.
My mother was ill. I would be in the hospital. I would run to Princeton Hospital. The nurses would find me a conference room. I would get there at 6 a.m. every single day when she was in the hospital to see the suite of 6 doctors that would come through and get the report, would run to her room to be with her, go back, eating all that hospital food, you name it. Over the past, I was sedentary, and I felt physically
And stressed.
and I'm still happy. That's the good news. But I got to a point where I just said, physically, mentally, I need to do something for myself. So not surprised that I put myself in that scenario,
Mhm.
surprised that I landed where I was. And it was really, the key was hiring a coach. I had explored hiring a very specific coach before I started the whole coach program. Wasn't ready because I didn't know what I was seeking. And then literally the day after the second module, there are 3, I just had this inner knowing, like that it was time to, I call it, tailor the rules of my
Mhm.
life and be able to take my life in a different direction. So I hired her. I worked with her for 2 years
Mhm.
across me opening my own business. She's now a friend. We went to Charleston with each other last weekend and worked on our business plans for next year.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, we really dug in, we explored. I had never focused on my values ever, ever. And so we focused a lot on core values. So my core values I take with me, and every decision I make, I look to see that they're honoring my core values. We focused on, if I were to move forward, what was that purpose I was focused on? All the buzzwords, purpose and mission. I'd never done that before. We focused on my joy is my top value. We focused on my desire to live a joy-filled life. I was a happy person. I wasn't necessarily filling it up joyfully, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. And
Yes, totally.
yeah.
There is a difference. There's a drastic difference between the two.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And we focus through inner block after inner block, assumptions, limiting beliefs, self-doubt, fear, all of that. Those things that were keeping me back from stepping into my fears of radically shifting my career and my life. And I worked with her from March of 2020 and for 6 months until September. And that's when I decided that I was going to step into my fear and establish myself as a life and leadership and executive coach. So it took some doing, and I resigned exactly 33 years from the day I started at PwC. So shocked myself, shocked the firm for sure.
Mhm.
And no regrets,
Mhm.
0 regrets. Yeah.
It's interesting. So hiring a coach, and I've been self-employed for 17 years. 2 years ago, and prior to that, I'm like, why would I need a coach? I don't need a coach. I'm doing just fine. That A personality. Oh, why would I need a coach? I have other advisors that I work with, and I can throw some things against the wall with them or whatever. And then the beginning of last year, the same thing. I had this feeling. I think I need a coach, and I feel like I'm missing a direction. Even though, I have goal sheets and I have all of this stuff, I just felt like I was missing something. And so last March, I hired a coach. And my first meeting was, I don't know why I'm here. All I know that I think I'm supposed to be here, and I knew her before. I had worked with her in the past, so I was comfortable saying, I don't know. But I'm surprised that what has come out of it, that I just wouldn't have expected, that there was some really obvious things that I had no idea about.
Yeah. And those obvious things I heard you say you always focused on goals, etc. May I ask if those obvious things were those things like your goals, or were they more what was lying beneath?
They were probably direct connected to the goals, but they're partly really time management, but more of a spatial management, because I had a lot of things going, a lot of balls in the air this year. And I was feeling very disorganized in my activity and disorganized in my thought or what I needed to do over the next few weeks. But I couldn't put a finger on it. I just knew something needed to be done and something wasn't quite right. And I'll be darned. Gage asked me some great questions, and all of a sudden I go, oh, this is what we're here for.
That I call the sound of insight. You had an insight. Yeah.
Yes. So it's, I encourage people to, whether they're, even if you're not in transition, but if you're feeling, stuck, or you're feeling that there should be something else out there, what you do is so, so important. And for you to be able to have shown the journey yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And so many of my clients have, often I'm 49 turning 50. Is this all there is? Mm-hmm. And you would look at, I started out marketing to women, and I still only market to women, yet men say, hey, that's me too. And so I ended up coaching everyone, I'll say, and it, ambitious, outwardly successful. Everyone looks at them and they get to a point and they say, is this all there is? And it's helping them discover that. And I love when clients come and say, I don't have a vision and I want one. I don't even know where to begin. That's my favorite. I just started with a client out of Toronto, and we did a whole day session in New York City on Wednesday. So amazing to watch her have these insights. And sometimes coaches, I don't mean this to be critical at all, but sometimes coaches are very focused on goals. If you don't get what's lying beneath, what's holding you back, your thoughts, those feelings, those things that are draining you, how you're showing up, the goals don't mean anything. So really seeing, as you said, you had insight with your coach, what holds people back is what helps propel them forward. And when I know you had asked me a question when we were getting together about, how's what my experience has been helped shape how I show up for clients. I really show up the same way. Life became more exciting for me when I really settled in and looked at my values and decided I was going to live a joy-filled life, and being fully in choice, focusing on how to respond to things instead of how to react to things, and getting a hold of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. What new thought could I have? What feeling would that produce? And then being in what I call conscious choice about where you're going to go, because you're always in choice. You have a choice to stay where you are. You have a choice to make some shifts. So life became more exciting for me when I identified my purpose, and my mission. And I support my clients to do the same thing. I say to create their life and design their life instead of living what I'll call a default life, which is what I was doing. I was going every day with what I should do, raising my kids.
And that's easy to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the grind of every day.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the New York piece a little bit, if you don't mind. So first of all, why did you decide to do this outdoors, and what did you see that differed? What did that bring to the conversation?
Yeah. And I will say first one this week. So it wasn't entirely outdoors. The weather was kind of nasty. But what we did is it's the first session I've ever done with a client in person, COVID, all on Zoom. And my clients are domestic, but all over the country, Mexico, and some global clients. So Zoom is it. I just put forth to her, I'd love to do an intensive with you. The client intensive is like, I spent 6 hours with her.
Wow.
And she flew in, and we spent time. I rented a space in Pier Space in New York, but we spent time outside. When you're walking with someone and having a dialogue, when you're out in the fresh air, that's how it started for me. I have coaches that I love who are my colleagues now, who are beloved, who do walks in the woods, rain or shine. And I hope to get to that. So I love hiking. I like biking. I'd like to incorporate that in my client. This was the first one. The weather was kind of nasty. So we spent time inside and outside walking and talking. We had lunch together, working lunch, walking the streets of Manhattan, having a conversation. It shed a whole different light on it. Walking in Bryant Park where the holiday lights were. So that's just the beginning for me. We were in Manhattan. What I really am looking forward to doing is doing coaching programs with people that are, Zoom predominantly, yet we'll meet up in an intensive in a location that's lovely, like a beautiful location. So that's my goal. Not yet achieved, but that's in my plan for 2023.
That's fantastic. And so do you think that part of the difference in conversations is because there's no ceiling, no roof, no walls to hold in the energy and hold in the thoughts, and it's very much more open. Does that give space for different conversations?
I asked my client that, what was different about this? How did this feel to you? And I would say, it's, I'll just briefly say, similar to what I discovered, and largely on behalf of COVID, when we were in the house all the time. I live on the Delaware River in Pennsylvania, between the Delaware River and the Delaware Canal, and right on the other side of my development is an amazing big park with the canal, and you can walk. And what she described were the same types of experiences. One of my son's in grad school, so he came home when the world shut down, and we would walk all the time. And that was life shifting for me. It's like the stress goes away. And so we started the day with some box breathing and some body scanning and meditative type of things. And then we, before lunch, went out and walked. It was the outdoors, being fresh, feeling the air. There was no sunshine yesterday. In this case, it was Manhattan, so lots of Christmas lights around, and just freeing. It's like what I feel when I go for a walk. When that's my meditation, is I go for a walk. And I asked her how it felt, and she said her words were, it was amazing for her. She's actually just taken a plane. She's away now for 2 weeks, and she's translating what we did yesterday as she goes out and starts thinking about all the things that we accomplished, or she accomplished, not me, yesterday. She's going to be incorporating the outside. So it's like it over to her. So yeah, I'd say Manhattan, it was the hustle and bustle. It was being outside. I look forward to doing something like this in the hills of Pennsylvania or on the West Coast. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's like an energy. I work on I have a methodology behind the scene. It's around core energy coaching. We get to the bottom of why people are overwhelmed, they have self-doubt, try to get to the root of their challenges. And that way they can reduce stress, shift their behavior more sustainably, et cetera. And so when we work on that, when we go outside and we talk about that, it's like you shift your energy up, the drain goes away. Yeah.
Isn't that, it is amazing what that does. And it, for me, it stops the noise in my head, and it stops the multiple thought processes that are happening inside of here. And I'm able to, because when I'm outside, I don't listen to podcasts, I don't listen to music. I'm just outdoors, and it seems to, there are thoughts that happen that might not have happened otherwise.
That makes perfect sense to me. Yeah. Yes. And I noticed very clearly last week, I'm pretty good at managing my stress, but I had built up, I was going away to Charleston for 4 days. I had this intensive this week, lots of things going on. So I hit a stressful point last week, and I pushed myself. I said, no matter what my schedule today, I'm going outside. I probably walked a quarter of a mile, and then I shed that stress. It's amazing. I shed it. I do listen to music. I don't listen to podcasts on a walk, but I do listen to music. So for me, it's music, and being very intentional at looking at things. When COVID happened, we've been in this home since 1998, so 24 years. When it was in the middle of COVID in 2020, and my younger son came home, he was 26 at the time. We walked and we said to ourselves, we have lived here for 26 years and we've never seen some of these things because we were always walking to get somewhere. Wow. And now we walk and we look at the trees. We notice that in the fall, when the trees are, in the spring, when the trees are blooming, they actually turn to fall colors before they turn green. And lots of things, a heron on the canal, where it was always a means to an end to walk that canal. Now we were appreciating the canal and what we were seeing and letting it take us in,
And it's amazing what you didn't see before.
It's amazing that you could live in somewhere for 22 years and miss it all in this beautiful area on the Delaware River. Yeah.
So what does it look like? So when you're working with clients, so the intensives, but that we've talked a little bit about, but what does a coaching session or sessions, what does it typically look like for you and your clients?
Yeah, can absolutely describe that. So the basis underneath, which I don't really share with clients, they can see it all over my website, is core energy coaching. And It is not first focused on goals. It's first focused on, I do an assessment, an energy leadership assessment. Actually, it comes from IPEC, where I went to my coaching program, that helps you look at, it's an attitudinal assessment, not a personality test. We've all taken lots of personality tests. They're all very useful. This is an attitudinal assessment about how you show up in your life, how you view your attitudes, perceptions, and beliefs about yourself, about the world around you, about the people in your life. And it sheds light on how you're showing up. Are you showing up feeling like a shroud over you, feeling like a victim? Are you showing up with lots of conflict? Are you showing up as someone who can absolutely get things done and you're tolerating and rationalizing things? Are you showing up as a compassionate and caring person, which is a wonderful, very uplifting thing to be until it drains your energy, like when you're caretaking relatives? Are you showing up as someone that sees opportunities? Are you using your creativity and your intuition? That is open. It opens your eyes when you see that, because when people go through that assessment, which is about 20 to 30 minutes, and I do the debrief and the analysis, they realize that there are so many things that are happening that they're doing by rote and without thinking, unconsciously, that they're acting in certain ways, and that attitudes, our attitudes come from when we were a child based upon our work environment. So we get a handle around that, what might be preventing them from moving forward. And then we start to work on a vision for them. And as I said, when they come and they have all they know is, I am here, I'm successful, this can't be all there is for me. So we start working on a vision. We spend a lot of time on what could get in the way to clear those blocks, the self-doubt, the fear. I love imposter syndrome. I always say to clients, if you're not having imposter syndrome, you're not learning, you're not mastering things. So we work on clearing those blocks, and then we work on putting strategies in place to execute on their vision and their goals and live a life of purpose and satisfaction, and without burning out in the process. So what I do, my coaching program, I'll say, is bespoke. There are certain things that I do. I do a discovery call with every client, which is a complimentary call. And we talk about where they are, where they'd rather be if they know what's getting in the way, and then how I might be able to support them. So it's got to be what I'll call a hell yes for both of us to come together and work together. And then when we do that, I recommend what a program is. So I've worked with clients for 3 months. I've worked with clients for 6 months. Most of my 6 months clients have renewed. And so we will do that energy leadership assessment. Now, for the first time, I offered that intensive. So I will be offering that as part of a coaching practice. Most of my coaching programs are 6 months. I work with them on certain things like their vision, like their goals, like their values assessment. I do something called an energy audit, which looks at what drains them and what fills them up. And we get very detailed into what drains them, because a lot of that we want to, it's not like you can strike things off the list, but we look at, of those things that drain them, who gets benefit from them, and do they get benefit from it? And so clients make those shifts in order to have more time to do what fills them up.
Do you think that when you're doing that, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I did.
Oh, it's all good.
I did mean to. I wanted to stop just quickly, because what drains you and what fills you up, that part fascinates me. And do you think that do you see that people are surprised with the results?
Yes. The piece they're surprised with on the results are who gets benefit from it. Usually it's not them. Who gets benefit from it, and do they get benefit from it? So what happens is, when you have that double no, when they're not the name in the box and they're not getting any benefit from it, they're realizing how many of the things they're doing are things they think they should do. And so, it's not that the goal there is to cross all these things off the list. I did this with my client in the intensive on Wednesday. We went through a few things, and now she's taking it away to start thinking about it. We'll talk about it after the holidays. Well, I'll give you an example of another client in New York City. She was caretaken, and my client's mother had passed away ages ago. Her mother's sister was an older adult in her 90s, had no family, and it was draining my client, and she had no help. And so it's her aunt, and it wasn't something where she was going to cross it off the list. It meant something to her, but she realized, of course, she's caring for her aunt, but she wasn't feeling a lot of the benefit because the way they spent their time was draining. And so what she introduced was, when she went to visit her aunt, she loves to read, my client and her aunt, she was going to read her aunt a book. Before, it was doing laundry, paying the bills, and all these things where you weren't having any interaction emotionally with the person that you loved. And so that completely shifted how she looked at that. And it started to move to the filled her up list. And she asked her sister for help, etc. So Some things people decide not to do. Another client who was a friend who ended up asking me if I would coach her, we did a discovery call. We worked on her energy audit before she was a client because she was feeling very drained. She was someone who said yes to everything. And so she was on board after board after board. And when we talked about it, she had served her purpose on the board and she was having a hard time backing off of those boards. And so what we worked on was she made a decision that by the end of her term, she was not going to renew. And that was like a shroud lifted from her. So from 1 week on a Friday to another, she made that decision and she said it was so uplifting. So people you think you're getting benefit, you're giving, you're on a board, and it was draining her. So she looked at who was getting benefit from it and was she getting benefit from it? And it wasn't about her. And so, so the energy drains, it really just depends upon what's on the list. But I start all of that before we go into visioning, because it will be really hard to execute a vision if you are feeling drained as heck, every day. And so we start working on fulfillment metrics. We all have success metrics. When have you heard about anyone having fulfillment metrics? So what are those things that fulfill you? A date night, taking a bath, going biking, etc. So I work on fulfillment metrics right away to get them to shift their energy. And then we start working on their vision.
And it's just so important, because especially if it doesn't matter whether you're in the corporate world or you're managing your own business. It's easy to say yes all the time because that's what you're supposed to do. And it's easy to get into that point where you're empty. And it's very difficult to try to dig your way out of that without the right triggers, bad word, but without the right understanding, recognizing the habits that got you there in the first place, and go, oh, wait, I need to stop and think about this before I just answer because I think I need to do it.
So I loved how you said habits, because on the energy audit, we focus on the people, the places, the things, and the habits that drain them. So it's not always about things. It's around habits. It's around people. It also is about the people that drain you in your life and, what you want to do about it. So we spend time up front, although we're doing a lot of that energy work up front, because that's how they reduce stress. That's how they connect with their purpose and their passion. It's really important to be able to shift and start having those shifts, and having them be able to shift their energy, show up with creativity. And so you can get around your thoughts. What's the thought I'm having? It's real simple. What's the thought I'm having? What feeling comes from that thought when you feel drained, and what are you doing? And then I say, let's pull the rug out from under you. What new thought would you like to have? What feeling, and they sit there with that, with their eyes closed. What new thought could you have? What are the possibilities? And with that new thought, how would that feel for you? And you see their whole body change, their facial expression change. And then what do you want to consciously choose to do? So it's being in conscious choice of, how you show up each day.
Conscious choice. That's a great statement.
You always have a choice. You always have a choice.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that in what you're doing is you're really empowering people and give them permission to have a choice.
To have a choice, and to be able to shift their energy in a sustainable way, to be able to work on it all the time, because we all will have drains, of course, our life. And it's how do you move out when you get feeling drained? It's how long do you want to stay there, and being able to shift your energy so you can move forward in the way you want to move, and then work on vision, work on goals, et cetera, and then implement them. Yep.
And so for you, showing up for your clients, right? And you've talked about outdoors and walking and biking and hiking and things. And are there ever times where you just really think you should go outdoors, but maybe there's work that's pulling you down, or responsibilities that are pulling you down, or the weather is just terrible, or, the little stories that you tell yourself? How do you manage through that? Or do you just let it not happen?
Me personally?
Yes.
So
for your personal life, not as a coach, but what does Paula do?
Yeah. So I had to create a habit, and it happened during COVID, a habit of walking. And my, at the time, 26-year-old was very instrumental in it, because he's very focused on his mental health and his wellness. And so we would go out and walk. I walk every single day, rain or shine. Was pouring the other day, I walk. It may be 20 minutes because it's pouring, but I do a 20 to 30 minute walk every day. I walk midday. My dogs have to be walked. I have a park right here, and I walk in the evening. Now that it's getting, darker earlier, I don't always do that. I've got Peloton upstairs, so I do that. So every day, it took me several months to create that habit. And I work with clients on doing that as well. It's easy to fall out of the habit and then create it again. So I do that. I have music also playing all the time in the background, whether I'm coaching someone. You don't hear it because my Mac is, but I've got music on. So I'm always walking outside with music and taking note of what's happening, not looking at my email before I go out, taking note about what's outside. And I think about my day, and it just takes the stress of it just way down. And I get to a point where I want to look at the opportunities of the day. I also practice a lot of gratitude practice right now. I think about when I wake up immediately, what are 3 things that I'm grateful for? And throughout the day, I add things to that list. Anytime I feel grateful for something, I add that to the list. It's very uplifting. I never did anything like that. Yeah.
It's, well, great. Having thoughts of gratefulness seems to surface around Thanksgiving, where we should really be talking about it all year long, right? But it seems to be going through the holidays is a common practice to talk about that. But it does uplift, and it should be part of a conversation year round.
Year round. I make it my point every day to send someone or leave them a video. I do a lot of video notes or voice notes. Try not to do email because it doesn't have the same feeling. But I will craft a video, short video, no more than 2 minutes. I might send it to my son during the day. I might send it to a friend. I might send it to a client. I might send it to a colleague from PwC. And it really is, I was thinking about you, and here's why I was thinking about you. And I have had people do that back to me, and it just makes you pause and say, wow, and it's the gratitude practice. It's really uplifting.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
To put a bow on a conversation.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you, Paula. I want to thank you so much for being here today. And I love your workspace, and I love the bright windows behind you, and how wonderful it is to be able to just look outside and see what's out there. But I want to thank you immensely for being here. And I'm so glad that Rebecca connected us. And where can people find you? Almost forgot to ask.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So website, paulaadlercoaching.com, PAULAADLER coaching.com, one word. Website and LinkedIn, search my name. I'm on LinkedIn, also on Instagram and Facebook. My website, my LinkedIn are the 2 places that I focus most with clients.
Perfect. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes as well. But thank you. Thanks again for being here. I love the path that you've walked yourself, and I love the fact that you're helping others.
Thank you. That's my purpose. It's my purpose is helping people create the life they want to live, create their life and live a life that they create, not a default life. And also my mission is being able to help. I've got 1 million on my list, 1 million people move forward in some way. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Lynn.
Hi, Jean.
How are you?
Very well, thanks. So excited to be here. What a wonderful talk you just had with Paula.
Yes.
And I loved hearing it.
I'm inspired, and now I need to go make some lists and figure out, because I think that I need to go talk to my coach.
There you go.
But
well,
it was really, really wonderful. I'm honestly excited to listen to the recording afterwards, because I know that there's some nuggets that I need to really pay attention to. So lots of great information.
absolutely. Lots of great nuggets in there.
So tell us, what do you have for your Rising Up segment today?
Well, at the beginning of this podcast, every episode, Jean, you say, Discover Rising Tides is where we explore the importance of the outdoors and maintaining life balance. And I've been hearing those words, regularly. And today we're going to focus kind of on the maintaining life balance side. And you and Paula just talked about some of the things I wanted to bring up. And the first thing I want to say is this idea, this phrase, maintaining life balance. Boy, that's optimistic. I think a lot of people would say, right? There are plenty of people out there who aren't don't have it to start with, much less be able to maintain it, right? And so when we think about that, obviously we talk here a lot about how nature can be a great contributor to life balance. And this time of year, of course, the outdoors in different places. I was just talking to a friend in South Dakota, and they have like 48 inches of snow or something. And there are just times when getting that walk in outside, getting that hike in, getting that time out in nature can be challenging. And people across the country have been experiencing that lately for sure. So it's important for us, I think, especially for us as women, to remember that we can choose some self-care, and we can choose some things that'll help us reach for, claim, and maintain that life balance, right? And whether it's, the holidays are just over, whether we're, dealing with a blizzard, whether I thought I was finally getting the kids back to school, but nope, school got canceled because of the blizzard, whatever it is, right? We have some things that we can do to really just connect us to this self-care is what I want to, nobody told us growing up, don't forget the self-care. Right? They said, don't forget the kids, and don't forget your spouse, and don't forget your job, and don't forget to make a good living. Nobody really ever said, don't forget the self-care. And so I want us to just talk about kind of three things that have helped me really shift in this maintaining life balance idea. The first one for me is connect with other women in a supportive environment. So as you know, like lots of the things I create in my business, I create because I want them. So this is one of those, right? Create for yourself, if you can't find one that resonates for you, a way for you to connect with other women in a supportive environment. That gives us the opportunity to not only be heard, but also to give the gift of listening. Right? That allows us to laugh together. It allows us to create positive energy together, to support each other. And all of those are wonderful ways for us to enhance our self-care. The second one, you're going to kind of laugh when I say this, I think, is practice self-care. So that might mean something different for everybody. We heard Paula created a habit of taking that walk. Or 2 walks, and getting the dogs walked, and having the alternative inside when she can't get outside, and all of that. But self-care might be meditation. Self-care might be taking some time alone. I practiced self-care recently by joining another coach's 6-day self-care experience. And every night we have journaling prompts, we have a ritual, we have all these things. And it's been just a lovely way to kind of come back around to practicing self-care. So sometimes it's about reaching out and having that experience and then being able to put it to work. And then the last thing I want to say about this is create habits. You heard Paula say the word habits. Create habits that nurture you, right? Not just habits of what you think you should do, or not just habits about productivity, or not just habits about, right, all of those kind of things, but create habits that nurture you, right? So make a conscious decision to be nurtured. So those 3 things. And the last thought I want to leave everybody with is just know that there is good in it for others when you take care of yourself, right? So one of the questions I always ask my clients when we're working on a vision or working on something that they would love to create, I have some questions I ask them to test their vision. And the last one is, it's a trick question. Is there good in it for others? Because so often we think that if it's our heart's desire, if it's something we really long for, that it's selfish. but know without a shadow of a doubt that when you are fed, when you are excited, when you are lit up, there is always good in it for others. And when we remember that, then we're more likely to practice the self-care. We're more likely to reach for and maintain that life balance because we know that there's good in it for others and we're not just being selfish. So I hope that that is some thoughts that help us all rise up. And Jean, thanks for having me.
It's fantastic. Take care of ourselves so we can take care of others.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Lynn. As always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show was sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me. And if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.